Coming up on episode 112 of the Behind the Back podcast, we now officially have a new best team of the 2025 Behind the Back podcast season. That is the San Francisco 49ers, sitting at 9-4 right now. Ben gets to talk about his grades for this team going into their bye week, which it's crazy that they just happen to be on their bye week now. So he gives his grade on the team, what he looks forward to as the stretch run hits. And then we go over to Philly, which is no shortage of drama as usual. Got to talk about this Chargers game. Got to talk about the news going around in Philly. You know, is it Jalen Hurts? Is it Patullo? Ben and I give our takes on whether this might be overblown or not. Is it 2023, or do the Eagles have what it takes to bounce back? And then with that, we move to the Sacramento Kings, whether we like to or not. Just talk about, it's more of a general conversation at this point. What are we looking for? What have we seen so far that we've enjoyed? Ben brings back an old segment, and it's something that we need to address with y'all too. So stay tuned for that. With that being said, y'all, let's get it. All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Behind the Back podcast. We're your host. I am Marcos Conan Negron, and beside me here, as always, is Ben, the Jet Rents. Ben, it's our first episode since Thanksgiving. How was your Thanksgiving? Did you have a good time?
I'm still working off the turkey, dude. It was a great time. I ate a ton. I say turkey. I didn't eat any turkey, but I ate a ton of ham. Had a ton of stuffing, a lot of mac and cheese. It was a good time with the ladies fam, and yeah, man, no complaints. How about you?
Well, my Thanksgiving was good. The in-laws came over. We, hung out, played some games. Delia made her turkey for the first time. That was really good. She did an awesome job. Way to go, babe. I appreciate you for making that. And we went and saw a movie in theaters. It was a pretty interesting, gory movie, but it was cool. And got to hang out. And on Black Friday, we obviously watched the Eagles lose, but that's not what we're going to talk about now, because as you guys heard in the intro, we got a new best team on the pod for 2025. And that's the San Francisco 49ers over here. So, Ben, you guys are on the bye, finally. So, there's been a lot of good news. If I had told you coming into the season, you were going to go through all this stuff, with the injuries and all, whatever you want to call it, drama, receiver drama, all that fun stuff, and you're going to be 9-4. With a chance for, the 1 seed legitimately, even though you guys are the 7 seed. So what are your personal vibes and what you think the vibes are around the team right now?
I mean, dude, if you told me we were going to lose Nick Bosa, we were going to lose Fred Warner, we wouldn't have Brandon Ayuk the whole season, and that Brandon Ayuk probably wouldn't be a 49er after this season. We wouldn't have Brock for a whole bunch of weeks. We wouldn't have George Kittle for a whole bunch of weeks. We wouldn't have Ricky Pearsall for a whole bunch of weeks. Our defensive line depth would be lacking severely. Our linebackers would be in and out of the lineup with injuries, and we'd be 9-4. Marcos, I'd be shocked. So I'm fantastic, bro. Like, the 49ers right now are the 7th seed, and they already won the bye week because the Packers play the Bears, and whoever loses that moves behind the 49ers, and the Niners advance to the 6th seed. So vibes are up right now, dude. And I'm going to get into some things here. I'm going to talk about my overall grades for this team, from the offense, the defense, special teams, coaching. I'm going to give them an overall grade. These are my grades. And then we'll talk a little bit about just the schedule coming out of the bye, because coming out of the bye, this 49ers team likes to get cooking. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But honestly, bro, I couldn't be more thrilled with where we're at right now.
No, I love to hear it. It's true. The vibes, I almost feel a level of envy with how good the vibes feel. Despite all you guys have been through, you guys have stuck through it, and you're playing some of your best ball right now, and it's got to be a good feeling. And I'm really excited to hear what your grades are for this team going into the bye, because it's not a mid-season thing. We're at the home stretch here, so this is an interesting place to have a bye. But when you look back on this team, let's start with the offense. What would you give your grade for the offense?
So my grade for the offense would be a B. Overall, the offensive production has been great. A couple goose egg weeks in there. Things that you need to clean up. You need to lower that turnover rate. I'm looking at you, Brock Purdy. But you look at the bounce back that this offense has had, especially, Brock Purdy last week. The week prior, he threw 3 interceptions. Last week, he goes up against the second best pass defense in the NFL, one of the best defenses in the NFL. And he was fantastic. He was also playing in 40-mile-per-hour winds. So, I mean, you saw the ball when Shador threw the ball. That thing was a fluttery, I don't even know what. It was like a bird up there. Just the adjustments that this offense has had to make because of the loss of George Kittle and not having Brock Purdy for so many weeks and having to lean on 1 week of the Kendrick Bourne and Mac Jones connection, right? Just to get us through that week and have this insane just run there where you didn't know who was going to be on the field for the 49ers any given week. This offense, in my opinion, has done a really good job overcoming a lot of those obstacles. So I give them a B because I think there's still room for improvement. But overall, man, I'm pretty happy with that offense.
I agree. I think the B is a good grade. You guys have had a lot to deal with, so the offense obviously was going to have some ups and downs, and some of the defenses you played against were really good, so that definitely makes a huge factor into it. No, I agree with that completely. So let's move on to the defense. Probably the most injured unit that you've had to see in quite some time. So what would you give for them?
I'm giving the defense a B plus. With the constant swapping that they've had to do all season long, they've done really, really well. Struggled early on in the season to intercept passes. Now they're opportunistic. 7 interceptions in the last 7 games. That's a good way to kind of bounce back and come back and find your rhythm. They've had great production from promising young players. I'm looking at like D. Winters, Tatum Bethune, Upton Stout, Raynaud Green. I mean, that list goes on and on. You've got youngsters all around. And even the guys like a Michael Williams who's out the rest of the year, he even showed those shades of awesome play. So I really love what I'm seeing from these youngsters on defense. And from a veteran, perspective, I'm looking at a guy like Diamador Lenore, who he's really had to take the reins of that veteran leadership in that defensive lineup since, Fred Warner went out. And I think even he has done a fantastic job. This secondary gets carved up because some weeks we struggle to generate that pass rush depending on what that defensive line looks like. But I mean, last week when you have that defensive line, your secondary looks decent. And I think when you start to kind of evaluate this team from a standpoint of availability and a consistent availability, they've strung together a few weeks here of consistent lineup and knowing who they're going to go to. And I think that has really helped, Robert Saleh, especially game plan for a lot of these upcoming teams and from a week to week standpoint. So overall, B plus, I'm pretty happy with the defense at this point.
No, I agree with that. That's a solid grade. You guys have been through so much. I mean, it's not even just, I could say the same thing for the whole portion of this team, but I think what this defense has been able to accomplish against some of the teams you've gone up against, and you're going to get tested even more here moving forward. So it's just going to be a great way for these guys to learn and especially get into a playoff and more playoff environments as the year closes. So that's great. Okay, let's talk about, something that's been a huge change this year. Feels like night and day, and that would be your special teams. Well, I have a feeling I already know what grade you're going to give here, so let him have it.
Special teams, baby. He's got that A plus, man. What a turnaround. I mean, the story for this special teams unit, they were last place in the NFL by 1.5 miles last season, losing games because of special teams, definitely not winning any games because of special teams. And this year, just that complete 180 turnaround, getting Sky Moore, great trade before the season started. Great trade. He's already broke open so many runs for us, set up great field position, kicked off drives, kicked off games in great spots. So, that was already a great move. Then you bring in Brant Boyer from the Jets, who was a name that Robert Saleh, suggested to the front office of the 49ers, was like, bring this guy in. I know him. I've worked with him. He's great. He is great. I mean, he has made some absolutely awesome additions, put some great players in great spots for this special teams unit. So, Brant bringing in that revamped unit, making us now second best in the NFL just behind the Seahawks. Yeah, special teams hasn't lost a game for us. They've won us games, and they've been a huge reason why the 49ers have found momentum and success. So I'm thrilled with that unit. That's why I'm giving them that A+.
And it has to feel a lot safer almost, going from your kicking situation to Moody to Pinheiro. And, obviously, he was hurt and, had to deal with that too. But, you guys will get him back for the push. But I think that, yeah, night and day difference. And Sky Moore, I mean, he was kind of having a rough go at things in the NFL, just in general with the Chiefs. Like, yeah, they were winning, but his role was very limited and they had a lot of high hopes for him. So it's nice to see him carving out a role with the Niners in the kick return role, too. That's always a fun, exciting portion of the game. All right, so let's move on to the coaching, which I believe you have a grade for as well. And I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about this coaching staff this year. What grade would you give them?
So I've already come on this pod a few times. I've definitely defended my coach multiple times. I think Kyle Shanahan doesn't get a lot of credit for just how good he actually is. I think because of his Super Bowl records, his history in the Super Bowls, a lot of the bugaboos that strike him, it's easy to look at Shanny and say he's not an elite coach. But I think this season has more than established himself as an elite coach in the NFL. Shanny is locked in every single week. He was missing a wide receiver one for 4 to 5 weeks this season, making use of what he has week to week, elevating this offense with a backup quarterback to be the best they can be. Like, it's him going out and getting Saleh with John Lynch over the offseason has taken a tremendous strain off of Shanahan and enabled him to really focus on the offense. And, the same can be said for special teams, and getting Brant Boyer as well. Like, he just seems more locked in this season than I've seen him before. And moving past Shanahan, you look at Saleh. It was a great addition when we got him. I was hyped about it. You were hyped for me because this was the low-key homecoming for Bob. And look, man, Saleh is as advertised. He's how he was before he left. He's smarter now, though. And, he has this defense fired up every single week, prepared with a game plan and instilling confidence in the bend, don't break mentality that, it's a hard thing to really get these guys fired up and believing. But Saleh, he has that chip on his shoulder this year, and it's really showing. And then moving on, you got Brant Boyer over there on special teams. I've already kind of spoken on him. The stats speak for themselves. I mean, yeah, and you mentioned Eddie Pinheiro. That right there was a season-saving move that they made. So the 49ers have made some really good decisions from a personnel standpoint. And a lot of that has to do with the coaching, whether it's just putting somebody up next to whoever that next man up mentality is. They knew who they were going to turn to, and they've done an excellent job at getting those guys prepared every single week. So I gave the coaching an A in this one. Cause I just, I don't see any games this season where I can put any loss on the 49ers coaching.
I agree. I think that getting a coaching staff that is competent where everybody can do their part is extremely important. And I think you see that with Kyle in terms of he's coaching. It feels like he's coaching more free again, knowing he doesn't have to worry about what his defense is going to do for him. He trusts Saleh, who he was able to bring his experience, his past experience, to make this return really cool. And it gives me the Vic Fangio style vibes of coming back to a team that, you have a great relationship with and want to build something with. And, I know he's going to be a hot name coming out of the offseason, but with how things are going, for him, I don't know, it could be beneficial to give it a real run with some of these guys for at least another season, wait for a better opportunity, unless, yeah, it depends. So I think that the coaching situation for the Niners could not have been better, and you're seeing it pay dividends. What happens when you have a serious coaching staff? So you guys have had to put up with a lot of I'm not going to say bad defensive coordinators. They didn't have the answers, and that makes things difficult in games when you can't adjust and you won't be able to be prepared like that. So having Saleh made a huge difference for Shanahan, who's been able to get into his bag all year long with all the injuries too. So yeah, super good situation for the coaching.
Yeah, 100%. So the 49ers have had to overcome just a ton of adversity this year, that I mean, I want to say is, unknown to them, but this injury bug is something that's well known in the Shanahan era here. But just the response that this team has had. I mean, it's so easy after you lose Fred Warner. It would have been so easy for this team to just sit down and be like, well, it's another season, man. Like, we're just continuing to get banged up. Like, this is just kind of how it goes. It's gonna be another down year. We'll get our guys back next season and hopefully go for a run, right? But this team didn't lay down, from the coaching staff to the players, from top to bottom. The organization didn't lay down. They went out at the trade deadline and they got, Keon White, who's been fantastic. They got Cleveland Farrell, who's been awesome as well. So I think this team and this organization is pretty locked in on the goal of, elevating our team while also building to the next step for that, new Super Bowl window that's, hopefully right around the corner. So I love what I'm seeing from this 49ers team. I'm thrilled that we're on the bye. It's like way too many weeks to get here. I mean, we talked about it in preseason, like having to wait this long for a bye is ridiculous. It's not cool. Especially when you're as banged up as the 49ers have been. But to be able to go into the bye now, you get, a Sunday off. You already won the bye. So 49ers fans, like, we're feeling good. We're thrilled. We're happy to be here. Let's talk a little bit about this. Well, let me give my overall Niners grade. Oh, right. So I forgot to do that. I've got the Niners grade that I want to give for the entire team. And then we'll go into this schedule real quickly coming out of the bye. So I'm giving the 49ers an A- because there's still room for improvement. You still probably could have you left some food on your plate a couple times this season, right? You had some clunker games, specifically like the Brock Purdy against the Carolina Panthers, but you also had these fantastic games against the Rams where it was basically over. Matchup one against the Rams, it was basically over. Like, you just had to run it in the end zone, and Alfred Collins just punches the ball out on the goal line. So you had all these fantastic plays, but you've also had clankers in there. So overall, like, I'm giving them an A-. I think that there's room for improvement, but just the adversity that they've overcome has been fantastic. Now, on that note, there's something key here that people need to understand about Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers after the bye specifically. Under Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers are 45-25. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. So what that tells me is Kyle Shanahan-led teams lock in a little bit deeper after that bye. That bye gives the chance to evaluate your team, gives you a chance to evaluate your season, give you an idea of kind of what you want to gun for, what you're going for, gives you an idea of the upcoming matchup specifically. You get, 2 weeks to prep for X team that's coming out of the bye. So you're hoping to kick it off with a win, and then you build momentum from there. And the 49ers are a big momentum team. Right now they're on a 3-game win streak. You're hoping to build off of that coming out of the bye. So with that being said, we got some juicy games to wrap up this season. This season is getting fun. I mean, the NFC is wide open. Right now, if the playoffs started, the Eagles would match up with the Niners, but that's going to change with now the 49ers taking over the 6th seed after Sunday. But first game out of the bye, 49ers take on the Titans. Look, this is simple. I don't need to get in deep into this. We're not going to talk about this game until next week, but that's a must win. You got to win that game. If you don't win it, it's not the end of the world. It's really not. Right now, the 49ers have the best chance in the NFC to make the playoffs, which is pretty wild considering they're not the 1 seed, they're the 6th seed, but based on how things have gone, based on having the most wins in their conference, like the tiebreakers and so on, they have the highest percent chance to make the playoffs. I think it's at about 96 or 97. So things are looking good. Again, it's not the end of the world, but you want that one to build momentum because the next week you see the Colts. That's going to be the last away game of the regular season. I think out of the final 3 that I'm about to talk about, this is the most gettable game. This is a Colts team that's kind of going through its own adversity right now with, the injuries to Daniel Jones right now and just a few more things. So that's going to be a game that, if you can build more momentum and get a win there, you're looking really nice. And you're setting yourself up nice in this NFC West battle and potentially the number 1 seed battle, where then you see the current number 1 seed, which is wild to say, is the Chicago Bears. I never thought I'd be saying the Chicago Bears are the 1 seed, but this game will be in Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara. It's the potential 1 seed on the line. It's a huge game. After that, you see the Seahawks, a potential division title on the line, potential number 1 seed on the line, big game capping off the regular season, and you're at home in Marcos. What jerseys, what uniforms are they going to be in? The rivalry jerseys. So this is a hype end of the season. There is so much to look forward to. These are huge games for the 49ers as they're looking to position themselves in the NFC. And, you know, with as much as they've gone through this year, to be able to have this conversation this late as we're approaching the bye, and it's incredible. I mean, genuinely, like, based on how last season went. So that's what I've got for the 49ers right now. I'm loving the bye. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to enjoy some stress-free football this weekend. I'm looking forward to that. But I'm really excited coming out of the bye to see what this 49ers team can do, because I think we're going to learn a lot about specifically this team and really about what this organization has in store for this team and what the expectations are.
Let me ask you one more question, hypothetical, just before we switch off the Niners here. If there were, it doesn't matter what seed you finish, what team do you not want to face right now? If you had to choose a team, an opponent you least want to face, who would it be?
I actually love that you asked me that, because it was a point I wanted to make. This is an interesting 49ers team, and this is an interesting NFC. I'm not scared of any team in the NFC. I'm not. But I can tell you, like, the 49ers could beat any team they want. Any team. They can also lose to any team that they want that is in the playoffs right now. So this is kind of the wild part of how the NFC is shaping out, of how this, I mean, shoot, dude, just how the NFL is this year. And look at the AFC, it's all over the place too. You got the freaking Patriots up there now. So, and even though you question, like, because of their schedule, yada, yada, we can get in that for days. But if I had to choose a team that I would not want to face, I think it would probably be the Rams. And the sole reason I say that is because, you know, yeah, they've got some defense. Last week, they didn't show much of it against Bryce Young. But, you know, the last time around, they blew out the 49ers, you know, and it was a response game. You almost expected that based on how this matchup has been, you know, between the 49ers and the Rams for the better part of, I mean, a while now. But that team, you know, that is a loaded offense. That is a Matt Stafford who, even though he turns the ball over 3 or 4 times last week, nobody's talking about him like he's a trash quarterback or anything, right? It's just, yeah, it's just a bad week. He'll be okay. He'll bounce back. But, I mean, let's be real. Matt Stafford is balling. He's been balling the better part of the season. He's probably the MVP favorite. And what that offense can do is no joke. And I mean, they exposed the 49ers in so many ways in that last matchup. So I guess for the fact of they left a bad taste in my mouth, that's probably why I would say the Rams are the team. But I feel like it's wide open, bro.
No, I agree. You know, if we asked myself the similar question for the Eagles, I think right now I would say, well, that's the problem, right? Because, like, every team outside of you guys, and the Seahawks, we've beaten. So it's almost that's the same thing. So it's like I can put myself in that same spot of, like, I'm not worried about any team. There isn't a team that I could say I would definitely pick over the Eagles either. But the Niners matchup would be fun, especially it's the two unknowns, right? So that would be, for this season, that would be a crazy matchup, and that's what we've been talking about. This pod is nothing without the occasional Niners-Eagles matchup that needs to happen to create this dynamic. So, all right. So any final thoughts on the Niners before we head out here?
49ers fans, just enjoy this bye week. I mean, we deserved it just as much as those players did, because this has been a grueling season having to learn who's going to be playing what week. But, man, I'm so thrilled with the 49ers so far this year. It's a building season, and they're continuing to do that and battle this adversity. So, bang, bang. Let's get it.
Yes, sir. This is a great place to be for you Niners fans. So nice. Congratulations. Way to set yourself up. So hopefully y'all get healthier and ready for this final home stretch. So with that being said, let's go on over to the team that never stops having drama, as we bring up all the time. It's the Philadelphia Eagles, giving us another back-to-back, loss setup here with a really disappointing game on Black Friday against the Bears. And if you guys haven't checked out either of our post plays, please go do that in our feed. Please, we appreciate that, all love and support. But the Eagles, fortunately, even better. And for those who have HBO Max, the NFC East, they did a Hard Knocks for the NFC East. And what better place for those, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it yet, but it's one of those things where it starts with the Eagles' loss against Dallas. And I think the vibes for the past 2 weeks around the Philadelphia media and people talking about the team, it's just been crazy, like crazy negative. The sky's falling. I even said it on the pod, I don't know if this team has what it takes. But then, then the conversations around the team have been like, oh, is it now Jalen Hurts' fault? Patullo, they're egging his house, like it's been a very interesting news cycle for the Philadelphia Eagles. And, part of me always believes, and I believe in this team, I'm more of the optimist than for the Philadelphia Eagles, but I do believe that, there is something that needs to happen if there's something needs to switch on for this team if us as Eagles fans truly expect them to go back to back. And fortunately, like we just talked about in the Niners segment, the NFC East or the NFC is wide open. So the Eagles can figure this out in a couple weeks and they're back to being the most dangerous team. But we're not right now. We're not that. We need to. The past 4 weeks since the bye have been a low-key disaster. We're lucky we're 2-2. If there was a real world, we would have lost all 4 of those games, and this is the collapse all over again. So do you think, I'm going to throw this over to you real quick, because we had mentioned, you got to witness the Boo Birds with me, all the time throughout that whole game. And, you were talking about like, bro, this is crazy, like seeing this from your own fans. So do you think all this talk post, another tough loss prime time against the Bears, do you think it's overblown? Do you think the Eagles, from your perspective, have a shot to rebound and figure this out?
Absolutely. I mean, this Eagles team has already proved people wrong more than once, right? They can do it again. The thing that's wild to me is like there is definitely an issue with the Eagles offensively. 100%. Like that is known. But the way that the media and the way that everyone is blowing this up with the Eagles has been wild to me, considering 2 things. Number one, you guys have had the hardest schedule in the NFL, and you've had to play so far in the season the highest, win percentage. Your opponents have the highest win percentage out of any other team. So meaning you guys have faced the tougher opponents throughout the entire season, and you've still found ways to win. So there, 2 things can be true. You can have big problems with your offense, but you can still be a good team. And I think that's where people are kind of caught up right now, and they might be reeling. It's because it's like, are the Eagles, and it's, you're thinking about 2020, what was it, 2022, the collapse? 2023. You're thinking of the collapse in 2023 all over again, right? And you're like, are they going to do it again? Are they going to do it again? And it's like, rather than saying that they're going to do it again, let's see, once this team starts to, if they stack losses, let's see if it happens. Because right now, I mean, this Eagles team, yeah, they've found some struggle points and some pain things that they need to work through. But all in all, I think it's definitely doable. This NFC is wide open. Like, you stack a couple wins, you get some momentum on your side, you overcome this adversity. All it takes is one good game in Philly and those Boo Birds go away, right? I mean, we know what it's like in Philly. So I'm not tripping about this team as much as many people are. But, I can also say I'm not afraid of this team because it seems like right now it's an easy offense to stop, that of what Patullo is running. So it's just kind of weird.
Truly, it has been, a very interesting ride with Patullo and this offense and how it's looked. And I agree, the problem is, it is bigger than more. It's just bigger than one person. Jalen made mistakes, and we have shown. And we literally saw, for those who watched Hard Knocks, they showed a couple clips. And one of them was on that missed throw he had to Devontae Smith where he threw it behind him. It was a I had theorized on the pod, and many people theorized that it was, an obvious miscommunication on a choice route. But some people wanted to take the narrative like, oh, Jalen missed, bad throw. Sure. Afterwards, both Jalen and Devontae are jumping around. They both realized it was a missed opportunity. And they pan to Jalen on the sideline, and it's him sitting there, and Devontae comes up to him, and he's like, oh, Jalen was like, what were you thinking? I just, asked him what he was thinking, and he's like, I was doing this. And Jalen was like, oh, because I did this hand check, I thought, you were going to sit on it because I saw this. But he's like, you keep doing you. I need to make that throw. That was the wrong decision. Then he gets mad again and goes up, and he was like, that's a throw I got to make, and, starts stabbing at the guys. So I think that, like, when you talk, this thing, like you said, both things can be true. This offense can be broken, but that doesn't mean that it's automatically going to just break even further, or that the floor is going to automatically fall out from under them. Because I think the vibe, and I think if there's one thing for you Eagles fans, it wasn't an exciting Hard Knocks. You get to watch your 2 losses, but it's one of those things where it doesn't make you feel worse about the team. It's like, it would have been one thing if you saw these Hard Knocks and everyone's like pissed off in the locker room and all this stuff. But inside the locker room, you have Eagles reporters coming out and saying, like, it's not as broken. Like, yes, something's wrong, but it's the players are fighting this more than we saw in 2023. And the players don't believe it's 2023. So I think, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And again, it's just, the expectations on them are always, you're the Super Bowl champion. The expectations automatically get raised. 8-4 is still a good record. Where you're at right now, you're still ahead in the division. You're still in control of your own destiny. And for most teams, this is a really good spot to be in. But for the Eagles, the expectation's been higher, and the product that they've put on the field has yet to meet the standard. But if they do meet that standard, then we're talking about this team completely differently again. And who knows? That's what these next 5 weeks are all about. And I thought that, before we get into the Chargers game, if I had to just do best case scenario here, we have 5 games left. With the Eagles go 4-1, we are 12-5. Yeah, 12-5. That'll win us a division and potentially give us at least a top 3 seed, because we would have a better record than the Bucs, I would assume, if we went 12-5. I don't think the Bucs are winning 12. Or the Panthers, whoever wins that division. So I believe that's at least a top 3 seed, a playoff game at home, maybe 2, depending on how things shake out. And you can just go from there. And who knows, maybe even playing on the road might be helpful. Like, the thing is, playing in LA, there's a chance that Jalen plays better because he's not in the freaking cold, gross weather. He's much like, you mentioned Brock Purdy and his struggles in, certain conditions. Jalen too has those struggles, and we saw Caleb Williams struggle in that game too. So it was just I think that, sometimes Jalen needs to survive his environment, and, we can't always count on him in those kind of situations, and that's not entirely his fault. He can't control the weather, and he still plays well in certain spots too. So I do, I'm not excusing his performance. I think it was one of his worst regular season performances that he's had. So I'm not trying to excuse that. But I do believe that if they can just find a middle ground of mediocrity on offense where they're not just freaking terrible, then they're going to be fine. And I do think I've brought this up a couple times. There is a possibility that the rush offense is broken because not just their offensive line, but because Jalen's not running the ball more. It's been reported multiple times now that he has come out and said that he doesn't want to run as much. And obviously we've addressed it. He's been hurt before because he's ran the ball. And it's one of those things that if he can control it, which he can a little bit, and tell the coaches, like, hey man, like, don't make me run this play type of thing. Like, save it for the playoffs or save it for the big games, which we might see here more in the next 5 weeks. But, like, this is the time. And I do think there is a possibility that it could be an answer that makes things better. But we'll have to see. But I think the positive outlook is we could run the table and be 13-4. That possibility exists. We could lose a game or two, be 11-6, 12-5, and still win the division and still be just fine. If we get a home playoff game, anything can happen from there. But we could also we could go 2 of 3, 1 of 4. and all of a sudden the Cowboys like win out because of the way they're streaking. They're on a hot streak, right? And the Cowboys win out, we lose the division and potentially a playoff spot altogether. And then it's like the talks of Sirianni getting fired happen, and guys are gonna move regardless. I don't think the roster's gonna look different next year, but like this could bottom out on them because of what we've seen in 23, but they could also be extremely successful because of what we saw in 24. So it's the trend that we're noticing. The Eagles have shown that on the seasons that they win the Super Bowl, they rely on themselves and hiring from within and hiring the coach's guy, and it doesn't pan out. And the two other times that Howie was responsible for bringing in the offensive coordinator, actually the three times that Howie brought in the offensive coordinator, it led the Eagles to three Super Bowls and 2 Super Bowl victories. So there's a formula that clearly works. So I don't know why the Eagles always take a year off from that formula. But despite that, Patullo's going to have every chance to finish the rest of the season. He doesn't deserve his house to be egged over, and people are joking like, oh, just throw a playbook at his house. Like, I get the funny jokes. It's funny, right? But like, it is just a game, y'all. It's crazy that he has to go through that, but it's one of those things that like, it's the nature of the city you play for, the fans that, you're responsible for. It comes with the territory. So I do think that, Patullo can be better, but I do agree that this issue is it's more on the players. It's execution. Like, the coaches are to blame for the players not being locked in and prepared, but the players also are the ones doing the things that are, the penalties and the lack of effort on every route and the issues in the blocking or the miscues. They had their palms up like all the time in that game. Like, they didn't know what they were doing, which is just not what the Eagles like have been doing the past few years. So they look a little lost, but they can be found. But I do think it's just one of those things that, like, I have faith that they can do it. I won't be surprised if they do, but I also won't be surprised if they don't. That's kind of where I'm at with this team right now.
I'll ask you one question, then we'll get into the Chargers. So one thing with the 49ers, last year especially, they're coming off the Super Bowl loss. Biggest thing, they just wanted to get back to the playoffs. Like, they stopped. It looked this way, and I think there was this was probably the case that they just didn't give much of a shit about the regular season games. Like, it was just get through the season. Whatever playoff spot we're in, we know we're a good football team. We know we'll give somebody our best shot at that point, and we're going to be a hard out. So we're just going to cruise through the season. We've seen that with the 49ers. We've seen that with the Chiefs. We've seen that with a bunch of teams over the years. Do you think that this could be the case with this Eagles team?
With this team, yes. They've played in too many of these scenarios now together as a unit where they deserve that level of respect. If this was 2023, I can understand why people would say, oh, I don't trust this team because I've never seen them do it before. But we have. So that's the thing. That's like, they have shown through adversity that they can play through it. They lost back-to-back games earlier and responded with 4 wins, 2 really good games. So it's like, I do believe that they can. I do believe that there is an element of that too. Like we were just discussing, where maybe they're saving stuff, like they're saving themselves for the playoffs. And once they get there, then they're going to let it all rip and hope for the best. And I believe in that team that's the case because of the state of the NFC. And I mean, that in general could win us the Super Bowl still. So it's not one of those things that, I am confident. I'm confident enough in this team. But everything comes down to what feels like this Monday night matchup, because another game on a national stage, you had the Cowboys game on a national stage. You had this past game on Black Friday solo. Now you got Monday Night Football on the road in LA. You definitely needed the extra rest to deal with this because you came off of 3 games in a very short span, and now you get the additional rest. So a mini bye is helpful. And obviously the Eagles have been scrutinized all over, and they're going to have extra time to scrutinize the Eagles, right? So, but on Monday night, it's going to be an interesting spot. It's going to be an interesting spot because of the Chargers too, because Justin Herbert fractured his non-throwing hand or wrist, hand or wrist. So he got surgery, and they said he's preparing to play, but it's Wednesday for a Monday game, so they don't have the injury reports are a day later. So we get more information Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm going to operate under the chance that Justin Herbert's going to play because he played through the injury in the game and he got the surgery on it already, and it's his non-throwing hand. So I don't believe it's going to hinder his performance. But there's a chance we play Trey Lance, so that'd be hilarious if we got to see Trey Lance. But this is a tough game on the road, and it's not. It scares me for the reasons we just saw in the Bears game. The Chargers are a team with Harbaugh that loves to run first, that loves to use the run to establish the pass. And now that Herbert has an injury to deal with, I will not be surprised if they lean away from him just a little bit and take some of that pressure off of him. The Eagles just got ran on for 281 yards. A lot of that could be fatigue / Ben Johnson system being cool, but that worries me when these Charger running backs that they've been running with that played really, really well last week against the Raiders. And Vidal and Patterson. Yeah, Vidal and Patterson has been their duo. And Vidal has been, according to the stats, he's an up and down guy. Who has a really great game and then a really bad game. So he's on the really bad game week. So hopefully that stands. But that doesn't mean that they're going to try and run the ball. And the Eagles need to prove that they can stop it. Now, I do think the extra rest is going to help. And one thing I did notice post-Bears game, we didn't see any Jahad Campbell at all in that game against the Bears. He played 0 snaps. And I thought that was an interesting use of the lineups for Vic Fangio when having the combination of, Campbell, Dean, and Bond, I feel like would be really helpful, and they're versatile. So I thought it was, an interesting spot. Maybe they don't trust Campbell in the run as much, but I mean, he's been getting less and less snaps, and maybe that's just a product of they're going to use Nique all the way, through the season before he inevitably goes sign for more money somewhere, and then we let Jahad take over from there. But it's just an interesting something I noticed. I think if we incorporate him a little bit more, he provides a level of versatility that can assist us with those kind of things. But their O-line is battered, injured, hurt. So the Chargers have a weakness, and the Eagles D-line is going to have a lot to prove in this game, and they're going to definitely go after Herbert. So he's going to be under pressure, but Herbert has receivers out there. He has Keenan Allen, he has Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnston. They have a rapport. They can get cooking, especially against the Eagles back end. That is, Quinyon Mitchell's been solid. He's been perfect. Like, he's been a first team All-Pro type good this year. Cooper DeJean, still Cooper DeJean, but he's had some moments. But they can get picked on a bit. And some injuries to the safeties, like Makuba's going to be out for a while, if not the rest of the season. So we're relying on Sidney Brown back there, and that worries me. He's not consistent enough. He left Rome Odunze wide open 3 times in the Bears game, and if there wasn't wind, he would have given up 3 touchdowns. So it's that worries me when you got a vet like Keenan Allen ready to cook him at a moment's notice. So it's going to be the offense needs to win this game for the Eagles. The Chargers defense is good, and they played well against a bad Raiders team, but everyone does play well against that Raiders team, apparently. But the Eagles offense needs to respond. They need to respond. Jalen needs to show up. There's no excuses. You're playing in LA. You're going to be in that dome. It's going to be nice. It's going to be good. So no excuses. You guys have to come out here and give it your all and play well and execute. Don't turn the ball over. Do the things you're good at, which that is, I guess, the main question with the Eagles is what really are they good at this year, elite at this year, because you can't even do the tush push anymore. They're changing up how they're doing it. It doesn't make any sense to me. So this team needs to show that they have an identity, and that's going to be in week 14. They need to show us some sort of identity, and that scares me going up against a Chargers team that they know their identity and they know what they want to do, but I wonder how much of this Herbert injury changes what they want to do. So that's kind of my initial thoughts on this game. What do you think going into this game for the Eagles?
So I think you nailed it. You said that the offense is going to be the thing that needs to win you this game, and I agree with you because your defense is going to do enough. I think your defense at this point is well known is an elite squad. I mean, this is an elite defensive group. Last week, I'm really not batting an eye at the 200 plus yards on the ground. And the reason being is because your offense just couldn't do jack. And so your defense was out there so much, so early. Those guys got gassed, bro. That's a thing. So I think like with putting last week aside, you can look at this Eagles defense and say, yeah, there's gaps, yeah, there's holes, but look at what they did at the trade deadline. You got Jalen Phillips. You established a pass rush that has proven in the 2 games prior that it's more than, it does enough. So from a defensive standpoint, the Eagles are going to do enough to win this game defensively. It's going to be the offense that's going to be the thing that really makes or breaks this game. And you kind of nailed it there. I mean, it's something that we didn't mention out loud until, just now when you said it. There is no identity for this Eagles team offensively. And it's wild because they've had that identity in the 5 years that that Sirianni and Hurts have been together. And that identity has been, using a top 8 ranked rush offense to get things going, similar to that of what Harbaugh does in the Chargers, get things going, establish, that ground game, and then break things open from there. And then everything opens up. Like the field opens wide open if you're able to use, what should be the best running back in football right now, the proper way. So gaining an identity in this one, to me, is almost more important than getting the win. Because to me, like, you're coming up, this is the home stretch. You're not coming up on it. This is the home stretch. I mean, we're talking playoffs already. We've been talking playoffs for 2 weeks. Now is the time to establish this offense and this identity. And if it doesn't happen this week, this is where these questions and these concerns that have, been blowing up for the past 4 weeks really do need to start blowing up. And you really do need to start digging a little deeper into this. But there's an opportunity here for the Eagles to, take this advantage, this rest advantage. I say it's a rest advantage. It's not. You're getting a bit of a rest advantage, but the bigger part is you're not playing 3 games in 11 days, right? So you're getting your rest back. You're trying to establish this identity. You have an opportunity now to go in on prime time, make an appearance, make a show out of this, and prove to, everyone you are capable of doing this. So I'm not worried about the Eagles in this one. I think it's going to be a close game because the Chargers like to play games close. The Eagles like to play games close. I mean, these are 2 teams who, they have every reason why either one could win this game. And SoFi Stadium, it's always going to be a better turnout for the Chargers than it would be for the Rams. So love to see that. But the Eagles fan base travels well too. And I think there's something to be said with Jalen playing in a dome. You don't have to worry about a weather coming into effect. And even if so, okay, it's only going to be cold here. I don't think it's going to be, super freezing cold like it was, say, in Chicago. So there's an opportunity here for the Eagles to break this open, to kind of break past a couple of these bugaboos and find a little bit of an identity before you get into this home stretch. And this home stretch gives you a chance. I mean, I'm going to jump ahead just a tiny bit. You've got the Chargers, and then you got the Raiders, the Commanders, then you see the Bills. That's a good team. Then you see the Commanders again, and the Commanders suck this year. I mean, you called that from the preseason. They're also like the 3rd most banged up team in the NFL. But, there's an opportunity here for the Eagles to really dominate a few teams. And when you dominate some teams, that builds momentum, that tells you what you are really good at and what you maybe aren't so good at. And that builds identity. So this is what I'm looking for in this game specifically. I'm looking for an identity. I want this team to establish it. If it's not on the ground, establish it through the air. I know it's hard to ask for an offense you've seen 13 straight weeks of a lot of the same. I don't think a ton's going to change, right? But the mentality is what I'm looking to change. I'm looking to see if this team, if these leaders, I love what I'm hearing from the Hard Knocks stuff. All that stuff's awesome, right? And I'm going to check it out too. But I want to see it displayed on the field. I don't want to just see, a lot of the optimistic stuff on the sideline when you're down to the Bears. I don't want to see it when you're coming off of a loss. I want to see it while you're up too. I want you to be like, I'm optimistic. We're up. We got a chance to win the Super Bowl. So I'm looking for the identity this week.
That's great. I think the thing that does scare me is, yes, the schedule is what it is. And I think that the one factor that scares me is, although the Commanders have been the little brother, they have a real interesting spot to play spoiler this year because Jaden Daniels is going to be coming back. They've been playing with Mariota for quite some time now. And that'll be interesting. And this game is huge just because, like, this isn't the strongest version of the Chargers either. They're banged up. Like, you have to take advantage. I know it's on the road, but you're a good road team too. Like, you have to take advantage and beat a good AFC. This is an 8-4 squad too. This isn't a bad team. Like, they're going through issues and they've been fighting adversity. And I think people are more surprised. They feel more positive about the Chargers 8-4 than they do about the Eagles 8-4. So the Eagles need to come in here and just say we're the better, healthier team ish. Like, we're still missing some guys. We are a better team. We should be able to beat this Chargers team. And this is the whole, Justin Herbert stands versus Jalen Hurts stands type of game too. Like, this would be the game for Jalen Hurts to pop off. So if I were to, but it worries me because the Eagles have to keep winning. I think the talk why this game feels so much to win is it's because to go and lose 3 straight games would be a pretty interesting spot for people to be like, this looks like the 2023 season because you're teetering on that edge. You can't afford to keep, like you said, stacking losses. It's like we're going off of back-to-back losses and fortunately the mini bye kind of happened at the right time, but it worries me. So if I were to think about the most important thing in this game is they need to limit all this pre-snap BS, all these unnecessary penalties. They're a top 5 most penalized team this year. That's just not the Nick Sirianni agenda. That's his whole thing is like details, and they have just been a completely undetailed team this year. And you can't be undetailed against good teams. That's what costs you games. It's happened a couple times this year where if 1 or 2 penalties or 1 or 2 situations didn't go against the Eagles, they could have had big plays. They could, and we'd be talking about this team a lot differently. And I think that's part of the argument for the Sirianni and co is like they're playing that what if game a little too close to the vest in the sense of like, if this penalty didn't happen, if we clean this up, and those what if moments keep stacking, and that's what's killing us. We need to avoid that. We can control that. We need to limit those what if chances. So no penalties, lower the turnovers, win the battle, and you'll win the game. We have the stats to back that up, right? We are regressing a little bit to the mean in that sense, and we need to find a way to rebound that. And my next most important thing is that Jalen Hurts needs to play better. And he's had a little bit of issue this year with his accuracy, but I don't doubt that he won't be able to make a big throw. I do think there's an element of he just needs to say F it and rip it. And the coaches need to back him up. The coaches need to teach it back into him. Like, you're going to throw a pick here and there. And it's okay if you're giving our receivers chances. You need this offense needs to threaten down the field if we want to open everything else up too. If you can't run the ball, then just freaking dare them to stop AJ, to stop Devontae. Just do it. It's okay. Like, you took chances last week, and when it was 10-9, when AJ had that touchdown, we're like, there we go. Like, you're doing that. Do more of that. It doesn't matter. The 2 games where AJ's had 100-plus yards and 10 catches, like, we're losing. So something else needs to happen. But Jalen missed a few throws, and he needs to be on point in this game for us to win, because I don't think this rushing offense is coming to save us anytime soon. This Chargers rushing defense is solid. They're going to dare Jalen to beat them, and I hope they do, because I think this is a chance for Jalen to show up. On the defensive side, they just need to generate pressure on Herbert and make life hard. If they can generate pressure, he's already, with the injury, you're going to be careful. He's trying to get in playoff mode in that sense too. So dare him to beat you, get him under pressure. He's a quarterback that can escape. So the Eagles have a little bit of trouble with that, with the way they like to play in rush 4. So they definitely need to be ready for that element of Justin Herbert. So I hope that if you can contain Herbert, you'll be able to, the defense always does enough. Like you said, they always do enough to assist this offense. They're going to bend, they're going to let up a touchdown here or there, but they always make a crucial fourth quarter stop. They get a timely turnover. It happens. The Eagles offense needs to capitalize. The defense will do their part, and the offense needs to capitalize. If I'm picking a score for this game, primetime spot, big game, I'm going to say the weather isn't going to be as big of a factor in this one, so it's going to feel like a cleaner game, and I think they're going to respond in a big way. I have the Eagles winning 31-24 on the road.
I'll take the Eagles as well, and I'm hesitant to do it. I won't lie to you, but I'm going to take the Eagles because I think they're like you said, I mean, you're stacking losses right now. You got 2 of them back to back. I think now's the time to shift. They're going to come out and they're going to try and smack them in the mouth early. So I've got the Eagles winning this one. I think it's a little bit closer than 7 in my opinion. I'm going to say it's 30-26 Eagles.
I love that. All right. So for you Eagles fans out there, how are you feeling? You know, we lost back-to-back games. So the first time we did, it felt like we were going to panic and lose everything. Does it feel the same way? Or are you guys ready for this Charger game? Do you guys think the Eagles have what it takes? Let us know. So I think that's going to be enough on the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, I hope that they come away with a win, and we're talking about this, you know, a little bit differently. Maybe an identity has been established, or maybe they just played a freaking good game for once. So that's something that I'm hoping for going into this. All right, we are back, whether you like it or not, to talk about these Sacramento Kings. This is what it feels like each and every day, because as we speak, they lost to the Houston Rockets 121-95. Now, there's, you know, obviously that's bad, right? Oh, obviously that's bad, right? You don't, you know, we're not relishing these losses, even though they help our draft position. But when you look at the box score, if we play, you know, box score merchants here, our starting 5 was awful. Again, you know, 5 points for Keegan, who had 11 boards. He was 2 of 11. You know, Russ and DeRozan both had 12. Lavine had 2 points, bro. He had 19 minutes, 2 points. But Maxime Raynaud, 25 points, 10 of 15, 2 of 2 from 3. Malik had 25. So it was a big game for those two, and Precious Achiuwa had 10. So our bench carried for the second straight game, but what feels like to be, you know, the topic of this team for the majority of the year so far, through this most recent stretch of games. Because last time we spoke, you know, they had lost a lot of games. And then they win 2 cool games against the Nuggets and the Timberwolves in OT. Like, that was lit games. We, you know, the Keegan Murray shot, they got the video of the crowd going nuts. And I was like, yeah, this is what. Those moments, I have fun watching the Kings. But then you get games like the Grizzlies game and the one we just got. And you know, more of the young guys is what we're seeing, at least from our 2 rookies. Like, we're seeing Nique Clifford minutes, we're seeing Raynaud minutes. Still not seeing Keon minutes for whatever reason, and we're not seeing, you know, Carter, but that's fine at that point. You know, the fact that we're getting the 2 rookies is good to me. But for you, what's your kind of takeaway? Not that there's anything different, but like, not that much has changed, but you know, in these most recent games, have you been enjoying seeing some of these younger guys getting some run time with some of these vets who they might be playing more minutes with?
I have. I mean, it's a short answer for me. Like, this, I talked about the vets, and like, I was so excited to see the vets, right? It's completely shifted. And I've got something to get off my chest here in a little bit, which I will get to. I'm going to keep it cool, keep it calm for now. But yeah, you know, the youth move is going to be the next big movement that this Kings team needs to make. And part of that is, you know, the youth that you've got immediately in your building. And, you know, I think you've got some solid prospects and some guys that you can really build off of. You know, Maxime in preseason game 1, you know, he was awesome. He started out really hot, and we were like, wow, Maxime looks great. Like, he was crashing the paint. He was making threes. He was playing defense. And we were like, dude, if this is the kind of play that we're going to get out of these young guys, like, this is awesome. And then we enter the season, and Maxime, you know, gets a whole bunch of DMPs. And it's like, all right, well, I guess Doug's just trying to figure out a lineup. I don't know, right? And as we got into it, you know, Maxime gets some garbage time minutes here and there. And then eventually he starts to kind of work his way into a rotation. And now, I mean, unfortunate that it had to happen, but Domas gets the injury, insert Maxime Raynaud, he gets more minutes, and this is what you get. So I'm thrilled, man. Like, if we're going to be losing games with the veterans, you might as well throw in the rooks and throw in the young guys, and let's at least get them some development while also losing games. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, you know, Maxime, Nique, really fun to watch. Oh, I love Keon. God, I hope he's a part of the Kings in a matter of months. It doesn't look like it's going that way. I love the minutes we've gotten out of Precious Achiuwa. I think he's awesome. I think he could be a guy that you keep in this building.
Real quick.
Yeah.
How much of what Precious is doing do you think Isaac Jones could have done? I just want to throw that in there.
Don't get me started, bro. I think Isaac, moving on from Isaac like that was a big mistake. I really do. I miss Isaac minutes like no other. But again, that's another guy you could have just been building and putting out there. But it's fine. Take the vets. Anyway, the young guy minutes are cool to me, and they're special, they're fun, and there's a level of effort that these young guys are putting in because they have something to prove, they have something to work for. They don't really give a crap about their record. They're out there just hustling. And I think there's a level of hustle that lacks from a lot of these vets, considering it's Sacramento, considering their record, considering they're down 20, whatever the case may be, that you just don't get out of those guys. So I personally have loved those minutes. I am a big fan of more of those minutes, even on games like what Nique had tonight, where he only has 2 points, and 2 assists on 23 minutes. That's okay. Like, we're developing. He's developing. So we've seen flashes of what Nique can do. So it's better now that these guys get this time, especially when you're freaking 5-17. It's better now that they get some of these runs, in my opinion.
And it does seem that those guys are getting consistent minutes with guys like Malik, with guys like Precious. So all of a sudden you're developing a rapport with guys who you're seeing more minutes with, which improves the overall strength of the unit that you're throwing out there. And I think that that's what we're hoping for. And it makes me, what I've noticed in some of these games is I don't know how to describe this. I felt some type of way again about Malik Monk in a good way. And I feel bad for kind of turning on him in the offseason in a sense like, yeah, let's just, trade Malik. Like, it's fine. He's just a piece, And it sucks because he reminds me time and time again how he is kind of the heartbeat of this city. And it sucks to think that, like, I hope maybe that with some of his performances that if we're going to trade Keon, fine. But keep the heartbeat of our city then in Malik and guarantee us the 6th man of the year who is consistently like 6th man of the year role. He's just God-given to be that kind of player. And I just think that him with the young guys would just be pivotal because of the minutes that they're getting and the energy that he brings and the veteran presence. I just think that for him, he's the best vet for these young guys that we kind of have. And I just think that I've loved the minutes that he's gotten specifically with Nique and Maxime is because it's making them better. And I think that it makes me a little bit nervous what's going to happen when, Dennis comes back from injury because these past few games he's been gone. So now those, they've got more minutes to give. And again, no shot at Dennis because he's been good off the bench too. But I just think that, like, we want the young guys to play. But you know what? I've kind of taken this, nonchalant approach to the season, knowing, what it was going to be with the vets and it was going to be a disaster and it wasn't going to be good. And it's hard to judge this team until, some decisions get made. But it makes me, some of the decisions that they've made already have already been questionable in a lot of our eyes. And it's sad that this is kind of the result that we're getting. But you know what? This is just the life of a Kings fan. It's going to happen. Our draft stock, this draft is good enough to where even if we get a bottom 5 record and end up getting, the 8th pick, that we will, yes, it'll be really disappointing, but we're going to have a chance to reload and rebuild. But I just don't know. I don't know what the hell this team wants to do. I don't know if Doug's doing some of the coaching decisions he's made in terms of the rotations have pissed me off a bit when I'm watching the game. And I'm like, he says this message, but he doesn't like none of the actions, none of the rotations, like the things in game that we can very clearly see are actually working. He goes away from like, he's like, oh, I played this group for 6 minutes and they crushed it. They're never going to see the floor again. Like, those are things that I'm like, why not ride with some of the good vibes if you're just going to if you're going to go minutes all over the place, hand them out to everybody and just like ride with the hot hand.
Well, and the Keon Ellis minutes, like, or the lack thereof, like, those are inconsistent and nobody can really put a T on it because it's like, is Keon gearing up to be traded? Are they gearing to trade? Like, are they gearing to trade Keegan or Keon? Like, this whole thing doesn't make sense. And I agree with you. Like, I love Doug. I do. I think Doug is another heartbeat of Sacramento. Lives and breathes Sacramento Kings basketball. He's been around this team for 20 plus years, right? He's just a fantastic guy. And as far as the coach is concerned, this is This is what I was concerned about when, he took over as interim last year. I said, like, I don't know that Doug long term is the right move to make. But at the same time, I don't know that there was a coach that was the right move for a roster that was as poorly constructed as this one is. So it's hard to judge a coach right now. You could put prime Greg Popovich in there with this team. I'm sure you'd get them boys playing a little bit better. But, like, I don't think this product is a direct result of like a Doug Christie. So it's tough to evaluate it. But, yeah, I agree. Some of the things have been a little weird.
So, there's not much that we haven't already addressed with this team. Like, we could play, we might end up turning this into like a draft prospect pod here in a little bit for, the way this season's going. But for you optimists, I do this every time we're on the pod. For you optimists, we are only 3 games back from 10th. So 3 games back, like we're, if they all of a sudden get on a hot streak, we're talking about them in the play-in, right? So it's like that world exists, but Domas is hurt. We're undersized every game. It just makes it really, really hard. Like that was a big thing. We were just getting out rebounded like crazy against the Rockets, and it was just that's the nightmare we have to deal with every game. And that's why with like a guy like Raynaud, like it's great to have his size, but he's still a young man growing into his body, and he needs to get used to the pace and the speed of the NBA. And for big men like that, it's going to take him another like 2 or 3 years before we really start reaping the benefits of like Maxime's potential. Although he had a great showing tonight, that's performances you hope that he builds off of, right? So that's great, but it just worries me a little bit. But at the same time, it is just what it is. But there's a lot of things now, at least for the Kings fans. You have things that you say, okay, there are trades that we can look to make. There are draft picks coming our way. We have at least some semblance of optionality moving forward, but it's just going to be like, who are we going to trade for? Who's going to trade for any of our guys? And what are the guys we're really going to sacrifice? Because same again, Keon, none of this makes sense for him, because if you're trying to trade him, you're not doing him any favors by not playing him, because you're not boosting his value. He's not seeing minutes. And if you're trying to re-sign him, then you're not doing him any favors from wanting to re-sign here because he's not getting any minutes. So what's the play for him? And that's what sucks, because if the reality is they are promising him a spot in the rotation, like they are, let's just say they are going to pay him. Let's say like all of this is really just them saying, give us time to move Russ, Dennis, Zach. Like, let's move all the guards and the guys in your way and get some pieces back, and you're going to be a part of it. But for right now, maybe we just don't want you getting hurt. Maybe if someone wants you and gives us a great deal, you're going to be healthy and good to go. Everyone knows what you can do, type of thing. That probably is kind of what's happening. I think they think that Keon's stock around the NBA is at a good enough spot to where they don't need to risk it and like have him in the back pocket ready to go in case a trade becomes available. But it disappoints me. So I want to see Keon out there, but that's just kind of the state of this team. So okay, you wanted to do a little thing here, kind of bring back something fun that we used to do here on the pod. So I'm going to let you take the floor to finish off this Kings conversation. Where you want to take it?
So if you were listening to the Behind the Back podcast last year, I appreciate you. Thank you for listening for a couple of years now. We appreciate that. But you might be familiar with something that I was doing in the early stages of last year before I just turned into an absolute crash out. And that was the I Need to Vent segment. Now, for those who aren't familiar, it's a segment where, I would just pick a topic, something that pissed me off that week, and I would go on a rant about it. And it turned into like a weekly thing, and then it turned into an hourly thing for me, because last year was a train wreck of a year for both the 49ers and the Kings in a lot of ways. So I just kind of got rid of it because it was just consistently happening anyway. But I'm bringing it back because, Marcos, I got to say I'm really pissed off, to be honest with you. We talked about the veterans going into this year. We talked about how we didn't have the highest of expectations of this team, but I was optimistic in the sense of, you have Russell Westbrook, you have an identity builder, he'll be great, he'll be an all-out effort guy, which I think I was kind of right about. As far as the identity, I don't know about that, but where I was wrong was specifically with my other favorite player. So 2 of my favorite players, Russell Westbrook, Zach Lavine. Zach Lavine is pissing me off. Something fierce. I know that's a saying, you know. Zach Lavine was one of my favorite players. I mean, for years, coming out of UCLA, getting drafted by the Timberwolves, this kid was a dog, like a certified bucket, ton of potential, and you know, comes in the league. He's this awesome prospect. Timberwolves decide to pivot. He goes to Chicago. Okay. Chicago Kings before the Kings were the Kings of Sacramento. And that whole thing doesn't work out, right? And so then there's this trend that starts in Chicago. And that's essentially the organization saying, okay, who's stupid enough to trade for Zach Lavine? Because he's here. He's available. Anybody. And the fans are like, yeah, this guy sucks. Get him out, please. Like, please. And the Kings are like, oh, well, hey, we're trading our best player because, you know, he asked out. But we want to stay semi-competitive. So, you know, rather than rebuild. So we're going to trade for Zach Lavine. And they're like, oh, wow, bless you. Thank you so much for taking this guy who's worth $500,000 on a game-by-game basis. So we take Zach Lavine off their hands. I was hyped, all right? I was hyped because I love Zach Lavine. I thought he was just an absolute bucket. So much fun to watch. He's been my favorite player. Love the dunk contest. Oh man, has this thing in Sacramento not worked out. I don't often like to call out a player's effort or lack thereof, but because it's Zach Lavine and is a guy I've been watching for years, there is so little effort on his part at this point compared to that of what he showed in prior teams in the Timberwolves and the Chicago, that it's making me see red. This is a guy's jersey. I bought a Timberwolves jersey years back. I've bought 2 jerseys outside of a Sacramento Kings jersey. That is a Russell Westbrook OKC and a Timberwolves Zach Lavine jersey. Those are the only 2 jerseys that weren't Sacramento Kings jerseys. Okay. And I want my damn money back all these years later. This lack of effort that I'm seeing from Zach Lavine, this is not the offensive juggernaut that was advertised. This guy is second worst plus minus in the NBA this season at minus 224 going into this game. I don't know what it's at now. He probably has a negative, honestly, with how this third quarter fell apart. Actually, fact check me on that while I keep running this down. You know what else he has aside from just, you know, the second worst this season in the plus minus category? He has the 5th worst in NBA history in plus minus. In NBA history at a minus 2018. So, I mean, this guy, fun to watch offensively. Zach is not a winner. He doesn't make winning plays. He doesn't contribute to winning basketball. He doesn't take accountability for anything. You know, if there's Sacramento Kings fans out there right now who watched that game against the Suns, I know you know what I'm talking about. When Devlin Carter, Sacramento Kings fan who's been here for I think 7 or 8 years, has been a season ticket holder, sitting right behind the Kings bench. He knows effort. He saw so little effort from Zach Lavine to the point he called him out. And the only engagement that Zach Lavine has had with Kings fans since getting to Sacramento has been telling him to shut up and go home. I have multiple sources close to me and people that I've seen outside, you know, fans of the team and people outside of it that have said, anytime there's a Kings fan who wants a Zach Lavine signature, he doesn't sign crap. This guy gives you a fist bump. He might give you a high five. He won't say anything to you. He'll walk right by you. Zach doesn't want to be in Sacramento. And Sacramento doesn't want Zach Lavine at this point. So at this point, I've gone from Zach Lavine to get off my team. Because I am so over watching this whole thing go down. Like, I'm frustrated, bro. Like, this was one of my favorite players. This was like if the Kings got Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant's been your favorite player for years, right? This would be if the Kings got Kevin Durant and you were, in the tunnel and you're like, KD, what's up, bro? He doesn't give you the time of day. And then he goes on the court, gives you 10 meaningless points, goes minus 30 for the game, turns the ball over stupidly, doesn't care. And then when he hits the podium, if that, he goes, well, the next fan to do some shit like that. Like, actually, that's a great point. This quote, when he was asked about that whole situation, bro, this is what actually got my blood freaking boiling. Zach Lavine asked about that altercation with Devlin Carter. He says, I could care less if somebody talks slick to your bench or to your coaches or your players. I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something. He's irrelevant to me. He's not just going to talk that way to people. So if that's the case, I'd do that shit again. Wow. If that's the case, Zach, get your ass out of Sacramento, because we're all done with it. We really are. I'm done with it. His effort on the court, or lack thereof, is so evident to a guy who's been watching him his entire career. And it has done nothing but boil my blood and gotten to a point where I no longer enjoy watching Zach Lavine play basketball.
First off, excellent rant. He's leaving. Oh, gosh. No, dude. Well, it was a wonderful vent session. I'm glad I got to witness that. No, and you make all the valid points, right? I think I didn't know about, I didn't know Zach's quote post-game, and I also didn't know about the whole not signing stuff. That's crazy, which is just a shame. I don't think that anyone's better than, you're a person that kids look up to, kids go to see, and things like that too.
It's also your freaking job. Like, whether you like it or not, yeah, you're out there to dribble basketball, but you got to engage with fans. That's part of your job too, bro.
Yeah, they're the ones who are paying the money that go into your pocket to see you. But no, I think, it's sad too, because like I do watch these games where I'm seeing Lavine put in effort defensively for like a second, a game, a possession or two. And he gets scored on. He does, and he was playing grade D. No one's killing him for that. And it's, it's the things that it's just the fact that we don't see it consistently. And the problem is, bro, like he's clearly lost a step. The way that, his ability to score, like last year, he looked totally different, like than what he does now. He doesn't have the same level of confidence. And maybe that's the way that the offense is playing or the guys around him. But like clearly, or he doesn't want to be here, but clearly something's up. And yes, part of his plus minus could be attributed to just some of the team issues. I know that's like not totally indicative of him specifically, but there is, when you're fifth worst in NBA history, those Timberwolves team that he was on were not like crazy good teams, and neither were those Bulls teams. They were in the play-in all the time. So, but I will admit that like he is a part of that, and he doesn't play right now at this stage of his career, especially. He doesn't play winning basketball. We look better, the Kings look better when he's off the floor, like consistently better. He's less of a liability. We already have one liability at this point with DeMar. But he has the old man syndrome. Like that's not his fault. Like he's past his prime in that point, so we can't expect him to give his full effort when he's our number one scorer too. So like at least DeMar's carrying that end of the bargain and has something that's unstoppable and making middies and all that stuff his whole game. But Lavine, inconsistent, is going through a cold streak that if he had shown up for a few of those games scoring wise and had like those 30-point games where he was starting off really hot, like we would be talking about this team differently. Like we would have won a few more games here. So it's like that was the guy we traded De'Aaron Fox for. That's always going to be his thing. And that's if this is the return while Fox is over there and finally getting his rhythm with no Wemby, and they're 6-2 over there in San Antonio without Wemby, and Fox is just leading the team.
Dude, Fox and Harrison combined.
Yeah, so we're watching former Kings players thrive without us, and Buddy obviously had his own success over there in the Warriors, but like Harrison and Fox doing their thing. And those are two dudes that we could use on this roster right now, and it just feels like a waste in that sense too. The way that this team has gotten to this point. And I don't blame you for feeling the way that you do about Zach Lavine, and it is disappointing because I know when you got your jersey, I know how excited you were like when he was coming up and doing his thing, and it's just hard, seeing this is the version of the guy that you get now, and it's nothing as advertised. So I know that this has been the whole case with this team. It's just I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It's just a bunch of names, and these are names that can be traded and can be useful elsewhere. But in this grouping together, this is just not the team. This team needs an infusion of youth. This team needs an identity and a culture. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I agree with your points on the Zach Lavine thing. That's wild.
Yeah, it just the Zach Lavine thing hit me on a different level because of how long I've been following him. And that's why I can also tell you, like, he's not I agree with you. Like, he seems to have lost his step, whether it's whatever the relation is to that. It's tough to see. And it's tough too when it's thrown on top of where we were 3 years ago. I mean, the fall from grace, if you want to call it that, a first round exit in the playoffs, the fall from grace of that team of actually having a direction, of actually having like a future and something to build on. To be honest with you, like after game 7, watching Curry drop 50 points on us, I still felt pretty damn good about our future. Cause I was like, we're still building. We're a player or two away from, I was genuinely talking about contending. I think we were both talking about contending. Like that's like part of why I feel the way I do, and probably why I feel as attacked as I do with Zach Lavine. But yeah, I'm ready for this youth movement. Like if this is the draft, if there is a draft to kind of tank for, this is one of them. This is a really deep draft. I mean, I've done a bit of diving into this. I've also heard a lot of people talking about it. This is going to be a really, really solid draft class. I mean, first and second round. And this is a season where, if the Kings are finding themselves now 5-17, bottom 6 in the league, and they continue doing this, it makes so much sense to do just a hot garbage fire sale. Take everybody you can, from a veteran standpoint, take them out of the picture, get picks and youth in the building, or guys on expiring contracts, so that you can determine the next direction. And I think this is kind of, the feeling. We'll wrap things up here with this. The idea around Sacramento right now, and the general consensus is that this was an evaluation year for Scott Perry and for the organization. They were playing players a certain amount. They were rolling this team out and seeing who was going to work, who was going to, whether it be a put in amount of effort, whether it be, work or want to build something here, whatever it is. They wanted to see who they wanted to keep long term. And so we're in a bit of a stage right now where, yeah, this team sucks to watch. The front office isn't sitting there like, we're only a couple moves away. No, I think they recognize, Scott Perry at least recognizes that there is a lot of work to be done here. And he hasn't yet put a timeline on anything. He also hasn't yet put playoffs in his mouth. He's talked about identity and rebuild, which are two things that we are lacking and need to develop. So if my general manager is consistently talking about those two things, and if this is truly an evaluation year and this fire sale does happen, I'm going to be happy. I really will. Like, even if this season is complete garbage. Bro, I got through years where John Salmons was our best player, where Jason Thompson was one of our best players. I got through drafts where we took Georgios Papagiannis and freaking John Brockman. Like, I can take another season of this. It's okay. I'm not suffering, but I just need to know we have a direction. And that's kind of all I'm searching for.
Now, same. I think that, Kings fans are used to the torture, and that's fine. We just want a sign of a direction, and I think that's the biggest key. That's what we can hope for the rest of the year is hopefully a direction happens. Hopefully some trades actually happens. I'm going to be pissed if we don't make a single trade, or if we do some one BS trade and don't clear up any space for any of these guys to actually develop. But we will see. Do you have any final thoughts on the Kings here No, all right. Sounds good. Well, guys, thank you for sticking around. This was episode 112 of the Behind the Back podcast. You can hit us up at behindthebackpod13@gmail.com. For all you guys watching on YouTube, all the links to our descriptions are up above. For all you audio listeners out there, links to descriptions are down below. Please give us a like, subscribe, rate, review, and follow the show. We appreciate all you guys who stuck through with us on the whole pod and who have been with us so far. We appreciate all your love and support as we grow with you each and every week. Please stay tuned. I'm gonna have a post-game pod on Tuesday because that's gonna be the next time you'll see one of us post. We'll obviously have shorts. Keep following us on our shorts feeds. Let us know how our clips are doing. And yeah, guys, we appreciate you guys so much. But as always, my name is Marcos Conan Negron. Beside me here, as always, eats
Ben the Jet Reds.
All right, y'all. We love y'all. We will talk to you next week.
Peace.
Peace.